The whole Telusu Kada PR and the movie itself are very confusing to me. The PR was all raved about how every actor supports being a feminist and how they respect the idea of feminism.
I know, Neerja, this is your first movie. How important and special this movie is for you, and I really hope audience see your effort and your vision, your story.
While contradicting the same in the movie. Given its wide range criticism, I was also skeptical of the reasons why a director would ever recreate something Tollywood has already mass produced in various forms in media. The most chilling part isn't even the story, it is the fact that a woman directed this. To honor her debut, my mind entertained a strange idea. What if the whole movie was supposed to be a rage bait as it ended up being? Yes, given it is a debut film, the story does have few lackings which only annoyed the viewers. Keeping them aside, let's look at the story from a literary perspective, whether irrespective of the director intending for it or not. Throughout the movie, Varun, the protagonist, believes that the world and the people around him owe him something for leaving him an orphan. Sure, it is common to feel why me and why not someone else. But what gave him the idea that he is entitled to have a family? That people around him or the women around him must give him something as he's the man. Since he was not exposed to the basic unit of society, surely it is not just the family system that brainwashes men that having a family and having an heir or a successor given to them by their woman is their fundamental right. If we refer to the original novel of Frankenstein, the creature demands Victor Frankenstein to make him a companion. And I quote, "I am alone and miserable. Man will not associate with me, but one as deformed and horrible as myself would not deny herself to me. My companion must be of same species and have same defects. This being you must create." By Shelley. Keeping the Victor Frankenstein's sexism in the novel aside, what gave the idea to the creature that he can compel this female creature that Victor may or may not create to stay with him? To creature, it is his right owed to him by the creator. Since Victor brought him into this world that rejects him, Victor is responsible for providing him with the only thing that could make his existence bearable. The same happens in Telusu Kada too. Varun views women not as people but as reparations for his trauma. Like Frankenstein's creature, he believes his misery gives him a social and legal right to a woman's body. Being an orphan, Varun doesn't feel the sensitivity of being marginalized and grieve the lack of warmth of a loved one, but feels entitled to have a family as it is the minimum his society has to give back. This is even more apparent when he is shattered by the fact that Raga aborts his seed, denying her autonomy over her own body. He has all the resources to pursue his studies in abroad, be a chef, make a name, to be a co-owner of renowned fine dining restaurant, yet none of them makes him feel grateful for having better opportunities than others despite his challenging origin. All he wants is the repayment of the debt that the society and God owes him. In the novel Handmaid's Tale, 1984 and Brave New World, the authors talk about women in authority and how they exist to police other women rather than represent a repressed section of society. వీళ్ళు జనరల్గా ఎలాంటి తప్పులు చేయని పెద్దలుగా మన సొసైటీలో తిరుగుతూ ఉంటారనమాట. వీళ్ళకి చాలా పవర్ ఉంటుంది సొసైటీలో. వాళ్ళ మాట అందరూ వింటారు. అంటే మగవాళ్ళు ఆడవాళ్ళు తేడా లేకుండా వీళ్ళ మాటలని అందరూ వింటారు, అందరూ ఫాలో చేస్తారు. ఎందుకు అంటే ఒకానొక టైం నుంచి వాళ్ళు బ్రతుకుతూ వచ్చి వాళ్ళ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ని రెస్పెక్ట్ చేస్తూ వాళ్ళని మాటకి మాట ఫాలో అవుతూ ఉంటాం అన్నమాట. వాళ్ళ ఒపీనియన్ అన్నది మనం చాలా ఎక్కువ రెస్పెక్ట్ చేస్తూ ఉంటాం. They grow up to be this pure elders. And in family settings, they are usually Ammamma and Nanammas, grandmothers basically. It's not that their experience doesn't count. The amount of sexism and misogyny they have experienced makes them numb to the kind of challenges their granddaughters face and too sensitive to the changes their grandsons face as feminist jurisprudence gets developed. This could stem from the feelings of unfairness as they never got to taste the fruits of feminism. Anything just and fair for women may seem like a privilege. These elders survived by being perfect within a broken system, so they view a granddaughter's desire for a divorce as a betrayal for the very rules that kept them safe. It may not be apparent, but the feelings of betrayal is more subconscious in nature. This can be seen when Anjali's Ammamma keeps insisting how Varun is the man for not being belittled when she, that is Anjali, lied that it was him who was important, when in actual movie it's Anjali who's infertile and is unable to give birth to babies. The betrayal, the outing of a private matter such as surrogacy, and having a baby shower for his ex-girlfriend in her own family's house, and dismissal of Anjali's desire to divorce her manipulative husband is all swept under the rug because Varun did something which Ammamma's husband may have not done in their time. They are one of the biggest assets to the patriarchy as they act as the pawns to control the female population, giving special status to the purer ones. One reason why Anjali was not ostracized by her society or her family was because of her purity factor. Because తను చదువుల్లో మంచిగా ఉండొచ్చు, తను వాళ్ళ పేరెంట్స్ చెప్పిన మాటను వినుండొచ్చు, వాళ్ళ అమ్మమ్మ చెప్పిన మాటను వినుండొచ్చు. సినిమాలోనే అంటారు కదా అమ్మమ్మ చాలా క్లోజ్ అని చెప్పేసి. లేకపోతే తను ఎవరితోనూ వేరే రిలేషన్షిప్లో ఉండకపోయి ఉండొచ్చు, ఎప్పుడు వేరే వాళ్ళతో సెక్షువల్ రిలేషన్షిప్స్ పెట్టుకోకపోయి ఉండొచ్చు. Maybe she was not at liberty to do whatever she wants, or even if she was in liberty to do whatever she wants, she was kept on being policed by her morals inflicted by her family. తప్పని చెప్పట్లేదు, కానీ అలా అని అక్కడ ఫేర్ ఫ్రీడమ్ కూడా లేదు అక్కడ. Women like Raga become catalysts to abuse the idea of feminism, which gives rise to silent misogyny. It is not that when a person has relationship with another who only cares about themselves in the relationship, like Raga, has to be a man or woman. Since we get the point of view of Varun, we get an idea that she was mostly self-absorbed in her youth and maybe a tad bit narcissist also, which is carried forward and evident when she decides to carry Varun's child as a surrogate mother, a willing, selfless, narcissist martyr, without giving any specifics to Anjali, who is her so-called best friend, when Anjali is the most affected person here. They tend to distort the picture of the very purpose of welfare ideologies like feminism. When these men, traumatized by narcissistic women, are posed with the topic of feminism, it is not the marginalization that comes to their mind, but the abuse they faced because of a privileged individual. This blurs the dichotomy of equality and equity, which is one of the biggest pillar on which welfare ideologies feminism supports over. Women like Ammamma and Raga act as biggest facilitators of patriarchy, becoming the case study example of why patriarchy is a successful institution. Notice how Raga becomes doctor in fertility clinic. Yeah, I would like to consider it as a symbolic representation, but whatever. Apart from that, Indian cinema, especially Tollywood, might never come into terms with the 1954 amendment of Hindu family law where bigamy was abolished. It is 2026. Bigamy has been illegal for over 70 years, yet Tollywood persists in writing the other woman as a poetic necessity rather than a legal and moral violation. The aesthetic of the other woman The poetry of being a lover to a married man is so romanticized that it's honestly infuriating. అండ్ ఈ సినిమాలో రాగాని కొంచెం గ్రే స్కేల్లో పెట్టి తను ఒక ప్రాబ్లమాటిక్ ఉమెన్లా చూపించడం ఎందుకు అని నేను అడిగితే ఆ రొమాంటిసిజం అన్నది తీయడానికే చేశారేమో అనేది నా ఫీలింగ్. రాగాని ఎలాగైనా చూడొచ్చు, అండ్ ఇన్ఫ్యాక్ట్ ఈ సినిమాని ఇంకా కామెడీగా కూడా తీయచ్చు, బట్ అలా తీయలేదు. ఎందుకు? ఒక వేరే నీ ఎక్స్ గర్ల్ ఫ్రెండ్ మళ్ళీ నీ లైఫ్లోకి రావడానికి ట్రై చేయడం అన్నది ఎంత పెద్ద ప్రాబ్లం, అండ్ హౌ అనాయింగ్ ఇట్ ఈస్ టు వాచ్ యాజ్ అ థర్డ్ పర్సన్, అండ్ అది చూపించడానికేమో అన్నది నా ఫీలింగ్. Unlike Juliet or Parvati in Devdas, our tragic heroine keeps on living in this world, reaping the rotten fruits of patriarchy that she didn't even deserve. She is the living proof for future generations that without your fertility, your achievements, your nature of being a responsible and good-natured adult is next to nothing. It is not just her, even the goddesses themselves are portrayed as the most fertile women along with the other attributes as an addition. They are daughters, wives, mothers, celestial nymphs who woo men but never individuals. The religious interpretations of various epics, including pagan religions, often center around a man and how his wife is the greatest wife, but not as a woman, as an individual who is capable of making mistakes and mishaps. A goddess is told to have thick long hair, tiny waist, glowing face, no facial hair, which are some or the other way attributes of a very fertile woman. This movie shows how women like Anjali have no other choice but to accept the terms of their unfair fate just because of her inability to pop out children, and putting on a smile as people around her normalize the abuse she faces because of an orphan despite having a big and doting family. Not all men are toxic. Not all men hit their wives or children. Not all men rape the weaker persons. But what are they doing to stop that abuse? Don't get me wrong, but no matter what happens, the violence always persists, whether this not all men act or not. The non-abusive friend of the abuser, who knows whatever the plan they are trying to implement to abuse their autonomy of being a man, never acts either out of affection or relatability to their abusive friend's situation. They tend to have all the power and all the proofs to stop these events transpiring and actually rescue the victim, but they never act out. Yes, they counsel them. We can see that even in the movie. Ask them not to do such bad deeds, but in that process they get convinced that it is people like their abusive friends who always get what they want. Nevertheless, they never pause to think just how they have played the equal role in the abuse inflicted on the third party. Abhi is the good man here, who watches the crime in 4K resolution and does nothing but offer a counseling session for his dear friend. And he's not in. The phrase "not all men" is irritating because these not all men never stop the abuse by exercising their ability of being a man in a patriarchal society. Here, Abhi had all the resources to hire a professional help for his dear friend, or if not that, or stop this whole impregnation and conspiracy by saying the simple truth. If he could have stuck to the victim's side once Varun decided to proceed with his conspiracy against Anjali, none of it happens. And it's not just in the movie, it is the reality. In my view, the movie was a mirror of society and shows just how enraging this whole system is. The movie is too uncomfortable to be called a male ego booster. I could be wrong, but numerous frames, the pace of dialogues, hiring a charming man who eventually shows his true colors as the abuser, a nation's sweetheart as the other woman who yanks away the rosy hue of mistress holds on the social media, a beloved comedian as the abuser's friend who does nothing but watch, and an actress who previously charmed the yesteryear youth as the victim of the manipulation, are all done to punch you in the gut, enraging you, but at the same time leaving you feeling hopeless. Colorful, grand backgrounds and commercially well done music are all mimics of famous movies which were criticized to be misogynistic, where these commercially well done aspects cover the problematic side of the movies. What do you think? Have you thought about this movie in the way I just talked about? Or have you been convinced that maybe this is why this movie was taken in first place? Or do you not agree with me? Write it down in the comments below. Let's have a really nice discussion. And thank you for watching and sticking with me till here. Thank you.